Kevin Gosztola here with us to give us some update about the situation about the Assange case. What's going on inside, Kevin?
We wrapped up today. This was the week-long extradition hearing in Julian Assange's extradition case, and what an end to the proceedings. I think it's remarkable. The final drama, so to speak, that we had unfold was the judge denying Julian Assange's ability to sit with his attorneys in the courtroom. She said, we're going to keep Julian Assange in the glass box in the back of the courtroom, and this makes it hard for him to speak with his attorneys. He does not feel like he can follow the proceedings that well. He cannot ask questions of his attorneys freely. Moreover, there are security guards on both sides of him. He feels like he's being eavesdropped on when he talks to his attorneys. And he's worried about that. He's worried about his violation of privacy because he had his privacy violated when he was in the Ecuador embassy. We all know, and we had evidence shared by the defense during this past week, that Undercover Global, this Spanish security company, targeted him and his attorneys, including in the women's bathroom of the Ecuador embassy. When they were hiding, they tried to hide and get away from any microphones that might be spying on their conversations, and it just didn't matter. They still were able to intercept their communications or their conversations. And he says, I don't feel right. There are people here in this courtroom who I believe are from the embassy, the Ecuador embassy. They might be overhearing my conversations, passing on that information to US government representatives. It's unfair to me. How can I put on my defense when I can't be sure that what I'm saying is confidential? And so that issue, the fact that that's the way that these 4 days end, I think is very appropriate, given the fact that a lot of this has grown increasingly farcical in the last few days.
Yeah.
I won't say show trial yet, because we're not really at the point where we're having a trial, but there's a lot of evidence that it seems like we are going through the motions and simply doing the bare minimum to get to an appeal. Like, the judge knows that no matter what, she's gonna approve the extradition. The defense is just gonna appeal it. So why does any of this matter?
So what's the next step to take to support? What you think is the best things to do?
Well, I believe that following these proceedings, the first thing to do is to recognize that in the last 4 days, a very significant issue has been brought to the forefront in the United Kingdom. And it seems like the United States bears a lot of responsibility for what's happening. The prosecutors here on behalf of the US government, they're making an argument that the US-UK extradition treaty does not apply to Julian Assange.
Yeah.
That UK domestic law, the Extradition Act here in the United Kingdom, is what applies. The UK Extradition Act does not have a political offense exception, which means that there are not rights in this law that can be used to protect Julian Assange from being extradited to the United States, because the US government sees him as hostile to their own interests. And so it's something where it seems like he does not have protections against arbitrary detention.
Yeah.
He does not have due process protections when it comes to the extradition process, habeas corpus, rights that are enshrined in the Magna Carta from 800 years ago that have been a model for countries around the world. It seems like those might be overridden the way that the process is unfolding. So it's something for human rights organizations here in United Kingdom and Europe to think about and consider, because this isn't only an issue with Julian Assange. I think every defendant, anyone accused of a crime who came through this courthouse, should be concerned that if they were facing extradition to the United States, that they might not have rights protections that they should be granted. And so Julian Assange's case is sending a signal to everybody else that they need to speak up for human rights.
Yes.
It's no longer just an issue of journalism. I mean, I'm here as an independent journalist. I'm concerned about what this means for journalism in the United States if Julian Assange is put on trial and if they're able to prosecute him under the Espionage Act. But as someone who has solidarity and cares about what happens to people all over this world, I am concerned about what the court is doing to someone that will impact upon British residents here if this is allowed to go forward. And again, not allowing him to sit with his attorneys. That might be a precedent.
Exactly.
That ruling might be used against somebody else next who isn't named Julian Assange, who will have an issue hearing what is being said in court, may not understand what is happening in their own prosecution, and they will be denied the ability to leave the glass box and sit with their attorney and have their rights protected.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kenny.